serving you a dose of wisdom and humor with a dash of radiance. Welcome to Biscuits and Sunshine with your hosts, Callie and Landra.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to our podcast. We are so excited to have you here today.
For sure. It makes my heart hella happy to have you here with us. We're recording this from Distance Sport Audio Studio in Athens, Greece. Welcome to episode 8, Octo. Pame. Let's go.
We're excited to talk about everything on this podcast, but this episode in particular is one that we're very happy to be able to share with you. It's dedicated to Greek travel. We wanted to share helpful tips and our experiences with you so that when you come to Greece, you have a magical trip. Truth be told, our friendship blossomed on a trip to the island of Milos in 2022.
It sure did. We ended up naming it the Follow Your Bliss Tour.
I just love that so much. It was such a memorable trip. So many great things happened. Least of all, being me scratching my cornea. Oof. And you having to put drops in my eye like 6 times a day and having to drive everywhere. Plus you had to put up with me being a whiny little baby. But it was a great way to bond as friends.
Oh, you know, when I remember that trip, that's not what I remember. But clearly that was a big deal. And that was like so ouchy, ouch, your eye.
It was so weird. It was such a weird experience for me. But we did have a lot of fun and we laughed a lot.
And I think it ended up being bliss because I kept saying this term and you just got to know me of like, you're like, do you want to do this? I'm like, sure, girl, follow your bliss. Yeah. And I kept saying, follow your bliss. And then you were like, this is a Follow Your Bliss tour.
And then I just never let it die for the next 2 years. I kept saying, follow your bliss.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, it's fitting that we're talking about Milos in episode 8. I want to shout out my friend's restaurant, Octo, in Milos, in Tripiti. Amazing sunset, amazing food. Definitely a must try when you're there.
Absolutely.
And you know, honestly, food is like a highlight for me on any journey and any trip. Milos has an incredible culinary scene.
True. So how would you describe Greek summer in particular?
Hot. Next question.
Humid.
No, there's such an excitement to it. There's such an excitement to summer in Greece. It's like the moment that we lead up to. Spring, everyone's getting ready for the season.
It's a big event.
Tourists are here. Like the whole kind of country expands in a way because there's so many more people. And it's also during the season, the time when a lot of our hospitality friends are making their biggest moves. They've got more clientele. It's a very busy time of year for the Greek people. But it's just a dream. I love Greek summer.
I agree. It feels like, I don't know what other word to use. Blissful.
I don't want to have summer anywhere else. I mean, I know now there are plenty of places who have great summers, and it would be great to experience it elsewhere, but summer is a time I really want to be in Greece.
Yeah. You know, one thing, it's funny, I had the opposite experience in that when I'm talking about like the summer feelings of warmth and heat, for so long living in San Francisco, you're like in these microclimates that are really confusing. And so summer there, you might be, maybe there's a few nice days, but you're still bringing an extra jacket or a scarf. And I said, I can't wait to move to Greece and have summer. Careful what you wish for because it is hot, hot, hot. If you are out and about, like it's a 2 shower a day minimum because that heat and that humidity. But let me tell you, if it's time to be by the beach, jumping in that sea, nothing feels more refreshing. The other thing that I love about summer when I think about it is the soundtrack of summer, the cicadas.
Oh, yeah.
They're like kind
Tsitsikas.
of... What do you say?
Tsitsikas.
Ah, yes. They make that little sound. I mean, I think on the East Coast in the U.S., you hear that.
South.
Not in California. You don't hear it. Crickets is the closest thing, but even that's not... When you're in a city, you're not hearing crickets. And if you have the opportunity, and you will, you come to Athens, being on one of those rooftops, having a wonderful glass of wine and seeing the Acropolis, that feeling, and that's irregardless of summer. Anytime I can see the Acropolis, I'm like, I just can't believe I live in these ancient lands.
Oh, yeah. And Greek white wine is something to be heralded around the world. I didn't really like wine until I moved here.
What?
And now, I know. I don't like wine. I don't like museums. People are going to think I'm just like a pig. But there's something really beautiful about an ice cold glass of white wine, sitting on a rooftop, looking at the Acropolis, having your evening start at sunset and go late because we eat dinner late during the summer. It's an experience in and of itself. When was your first trip to Greece? Remind me.
Yeah, 2007. People usually think it's associated with meeting my husband. It was not. So picture it. 2007. Remember I talked about,
Dancing Queen, young and sweet, only 27.
something like that. No, it was funny. I was in the throes of just working like a maniac. I was kind of not in the most happiest point of my life. And I had a girlfriend that was like, hey, come to Greece. We're going on a girlfriend trip. I'm like, I don't know. It's really quite comical now looking back. And I had all the excuses. I don't have the time, vacation time, America. I don't have, because we don't get the same vacation as Europeans do, right? So it's like, if I might use it all to go that far, I don't have money, but she was such a good friend. She kept hounding me. And this was a trip that I didn't know I needed.
Oh, yeah.
So 2007, we come to Athens. I am like, this city is so dirty. Granted, it was October. It was raining. I don't know where the heck I was staying. And when you contrast that compared to islands, like poor Athens, that's like so not fair. So then we went to Crete as the first island. Then we went to Mykonos and then Santorini were the 3 islands we went to. And you asked, what do I remember? So I remember in Crete, the colors of the water were just so incredible. I'm like, I've never seen blue and green like this. I also remember what a crazy adventure it was to drive in Greece.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes people don't know this, but Greece does drive still on the right side of the roads, same as America. So that wasn't the problem. The problem was that it was me and 2 friends. We get here and they all are like, oh, I don't drive manual. And we didn't even think about having a manual car, not automatic. And I'm like, oh, I had a friend teach me in high school, thank goodness. But it's been a while. So it was a lot of like, stop, start, whiplash. And thank God no more people came with us because the car they gave us was super tiny. It would fit me, Angela, Heather, and our luggage. That was it. No more. But it was quite hilarious and comical. And so we made our way around Crete and then the rest was history.
Between Mykonos and Santorini, because this is always like a topic of conversation when people plan their trips.
Yeah.
Did you have a preference, and what did you walk away with from the experience of visiting both?
Well, it's funny because I think looking back, I didn't choose the islands. I think my girlfriends did. And we were doing, again, internet back in 2007. Like places were not, as
MapQuest.
I mean, there was like no Instagram. I don't even know how we found these places. I mean, they had websites, but they just were nothing like they are today, right? So, I think Crete, number 1, was blown away by. I still want to go back there because it's actually a pretty large island. There's a lot to do there. You could spend your whole vacation in Crete. Mykonos and Santorini, again, this is end of October, so the season was really low. And Mykonos, sadly, like a lot of places were closed. I remember one beach bar, these guys they were literally closing it up and they're like, we have all this extra beer and alcohol, help yourself.
Hello.
I know. And so we had a nice time there. And this is just a personal preference. The beaches there were really rocky and it's really windy. So for me, Mykonos didn't leave the best impression. I'm willing to give it a second chance, but that's where I'm at with that. And if I contrast it to Santorini, like everything you see in the photos, it is just magical. Those sunsets, everybody gathers in Ia to see the sunsets. It's just and again, I said I have a preference for sandy, beautiful beaches. You're not going to find that there. They are unique, rocky, and different colored beaches, but I didn't feel like that was what I was going to Santorini for. So I gave Santorini a pass there.
I feel like growing up on the Gulf Coast in the U.S., you know me. Give me a sandy beach and a beach bed, and I'll sit there all day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a rock sitter. I'm just not. I can't. If you want me to be at the beach all day, I can't sit on rocks. Okay. I'm a princess. Ugh. I don't like museums. I don't like wine, and I'm a princess.
You've learned to like wine.
Yes, you're right.
You have a favorite.
Oh, no. The one I love is a Sauv Blanc.
And you mentioned to us, I think in a previous episode, your first trip to Greece, you were 13.
I was.
Yeah.
Opened my entire worldview.
Mm.
What I remember most is just the sense of belonging. I knew Greece was a part of me, heritage-wise, but it became a part of me, if that makes any sense. I knew I always wanted to come back and spend a long period of time. Now, having lived in the country, what would you say so far your top 3 destinations are?
Oh, so I know we started talking about summer and islands. There is like a wealth of places to be really explored here. And that's been, I feel like, the biggest benefit of living here is seeing these places that, I mean, maybe now, depending on who you're following on social media and what research you're doing, you might be aware of some of these places, but I was not. So the Peloponnese region, that's like the next biggest landmass aside from where we are in Athens, is amazing. Mistras is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I mean, this place was amazing to see. It's probably one of my favorite UNESCO sites that I've been to. I've been through quite a bit. And there's also Nafplio, which I don't think I don't know if it's the first, but it was one of the capitals of Greece in ancient times. And it's like, it's a big town, but there's also the old town with like the red tile roofs and just the real charming kind of, as you would think, like these little tiny streets. And you and I also did drive there one time, I think. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was with my friend Kelly. I drove it once again down this little tiny narrow street.
My friend North and I went there too.
I was like, great driving adventures again. Like, help, am I supposed to be driving down here? It's kind of funny.
And Nafplio has the castle.
Yes. Yeah. They have one of the fortresses. Yeah. The castle. So there's a lot. So there is a lot of places if you like to go hiking. I mean, even think the Acropolis, of course, if you come to Athens, you must do that. But Likavitos, which is another really large mountain in Athens, is really great to hike. I live not too far from it. And some of the Greeks think I'm crazy because I hike up there. But I'm like, you got to remember, I'm from San Francisco. It's like hiking up to Coit Tower. Not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And good exercise.
We have very different views on this, you and I.
And the other place I would say, which is unique, is in central Greece as well, Meteora, which is a really, I don't know how to describe it, otherly world place. There's these monasteries that are built on top of these large rocks, plateaus of rocks. Yeah, it's a really unique spot. Again, didn't know until I lived here. What about for you?
I would have to say Milos. I don't know what it is about Milos, but I love it. I loved it. I continue to go back, and I've made friends there now. Like Tia Eleni with the hotel. Like, she still messages me on my name day every year.
So sweet.
It's just building, this community that you're able to continue to visit because Milos is very close to Athens. My grandparents are from islands, Skopelos and Chios. I went to Skopelos twice last summer. I have to go to Chios this year. I had a work trip that kind of conflicted with my plans in 23, but this year I'm definitely going to go back. I also had the opportunity to visit Karpathos, which is kind of southeastern
Is
Greece.
this part of the Dodecanese?
Yes, very close to Rhodes. So mountainous. It blew my mind. It was so incredible, such rich history, and they've been able to retain it. It was just a different island experience. Still beautiful beaches, incredible food, but the mountains just really blew me away. I mean, we could talk for days about destinations, but as you think about the things you've learned living in Greece and traveling in Greece, what are some tips that you think would be helpful for people to know when they come to Greece as well? For me, I know, like, top tip that I want everyone to understand: you do not put toilet paper in the toilets.
Sadly.
Could be a little shocking. You got to be a little ready. And in some newer places and newer developments, you can. But rule of thumb, best thing is don't put toilet paper in the toilet.
Some tips that I think are helpful to know when visiting Greece. The streets can be slippery and uneven because a lot of the streets have marble in it, especially around the older part, the touristic part of town. So wear good shoes and with traction, and make sure you watch where you're going. Be mindful in your steps.
Especially if you're here when it's raining.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And crossing the street. always look both ways. The most confusing thing when we moved here, especially when you're driving, if you are brave enough to drive, the Greeks, anybody driving here will park not on the same, like, direction on the side of the road. So sometimes you're like, "Is it a one-way? Is it a two-way?" I don't know. So it's always been and sometimes motorcycles drive on the sidewalk, and so I just
Sometimes people park on the sidewalk.
this is true. So basic rule of thumb is look before you move, because there's always a lot of traffic, a lot of motorcycles, and you just never know where they might be coming out of. I think the other thing is good to know is coming during the shoulder seasons is a really good time of year to visit. I know a lot of people ask me. And so what I mean by that is not right in the dead of summer. So months between April and June, and then the end of summer around September and through November is a good time. And I will say the tourist season, especially I guess after the pandemic, has really stretched. So we see it, it used to wrap up around the end of September. Now it's going well into November. And again, if you're coming for an experience that's not just the beach, I mean, there's always stuff to do here in Athens and beyond.
Because Greek beaches are so popular and Greek summer is so popular, summer is also the most expensive time. So if you're looking to come to Greece, those shoulder seasons are important, and there's still a lot to do. One last tip for people when they visit Greece: if you're shopping for souvenirs, especially in the more touristy areas, don't be afraid to ask if you get a better price for cash. If you can pay for something in cash, ask them, is this the best price? What if I pay cash? It's not so much a haggle culture anymore, but you can definitely ask if there's a discount if you pay for in cash.
I mentioned before that Athens often gets overlooked as people rush out to the islands. And I'm curious, Kelly, what in your experience is a must-do or see for people that are going to spend some extra time in Athens?
Book a rooftop dinner, a sunset dinner.
Yeah.
Maybe it's drinks at sunset, if I'm being honest. You don't want to be one of those people and eat dinner too early.
So
But
what time?
sunset can be in the summertime in 8 to 9. Be ready to eat dinner 9:30, 10. But definitely take advantage of a sunset over the Acropolis and just kind of hang out on a rooftop.
Oh, yeah. It's that slow lifestyle. Yeah.
Mhm.
Enjoying. Yeah.
Mhm.
Taking your time.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'd also say, too, don't forget, well, it depends on preference, right? Like, clearly, a lot of people come to see the Acropolis. And if you're one of those people, make sure that you make a reservation because now they actually have a limit per day, the amount of people that can come. I mentioned Lake Caviteos earlier. That's if you're into hiking, that is another a hill that's not too far away that has an incredible view. It's actually higher than the Acropolis. So when you're up there and you see the Acropolis, you're like, it looks so tiny. And you can also see the sea. It's quite amazing, in my opinion. The other thing I'd say is, are you somebody that likes to know how the locals live? Because there's a lot of neighborhoods that are nearby the center that you can just easily go into to experience. We call them platias, which are the local squares. The Laiki is a farmer's market. They go on throughout the week. So that's kind of a fun thing to explore. As I'm saying that, some neighborhoods that come to mind: Pangrati, Kukaki, Kolanaki.
Plaka is the old city.
Yes, Monastiraki is
Mhm.
also the tourist center. What are some other neighborhoods? Any others that come to mind?
Thisio is nice.
Oh, yes.
I think you could stay in any of these if you're looking for a hotel. The one thing I would say about that is if you find a hotel price that feels too good to be true, there's probably a reason why. And so I would always do a little bit of research. There are a bunch of Facebook groups about traveling to Greece. You can always get a gut check on whether or not this is a good area to stay in. For the most part, I feel super safe in Athens, especially as a woman living alone. So I wouldn't think too much about that, but I love the advice of getting into the neighborhoods. Like we do Friday Laiki sometime with our friends. I've come to you for Wednesday Laiki. We get chicken kalamakia, chicken skewers. It's just a great experience, and you really get to kind of see culturally.
You see real people shopping and living their lives, and you
Absolutely.
can just people watching, just stopping at a cafe and just watching and observing. For me, again, I love getting lost in that sort of thing.
I also know that we share a love of the less visited beaches. some that are a
Yeah.
little bit farther from the city,
Yeah.
which would give people a great opportunity to sort of drive down what you called Greece's Pacific Coast Highway.
Exactly.
Drive down the Athenian Riviera through Vouliagmeni into maybe some of the farther beaches that are beautiful. They give you more of a glimpse into the lifestyle. Let's say you only have time to visit Athens. Definitely get out to Vouliagmeni and the farther beaches to get a sense of what it's like a little bit to live by the water, by the sea. If Athens life feels slow coming from Western culture, a Riviera life is even slower.
Yeah, yeah. And also the Temple of Poseidon is the most southern tip of the Attica region. And it's about a good, I'd say, solid hour from Athens. Of course, you can get a car, and if you're up for that sort of adventure. Otherwise, there are like a lot of like buses and day trips that take people out there as well. Just something to research.
And you guys just watched sunset out there.
We did. And my husband was actually quite shocked. So this was in February, and oh my goodness, the amount of tour buses again. So people are coming year round. And yet it was a beautiful, warm day. So you just never know what you're going to get.
Are there some things that you think people would be surprised to learn about traveling in Greece?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one is that we have 4 seasons.
That's true.
That was a surprise. I think I had some family members that had just not traveled out of the US often, but they wanted to know what island I lived on. And I was like, oh no, Greece is not just all islands. But yeah, people are surprised to hear that there are ski resorts.
And our first winter here, we got lots of snow.
We did.
Yeah.
That's right. And around our birthday time.
That's right.
Yeah. And, the city was not prepared. So it was like when that happened, we were like, everything was shut down.
For days.
It was wild.
It was like living in the South because we also don't do snow there. And remember the other year, we went to Thessaloniki for our birthdays and we just missed a massive snowstorm in the northern part of the country that shut everything down.
Yep.
So this idea that there are 4 seasons will be shocking to many.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, what about for you? What did you think people will be surprised about?
The sea is always cold. What changes is how hot you are and how desperately you want to be in the water. But the sea is always cold.
No, it warms up.
The sea is always cold. One time in my life has it felt warm.
This is where we differ because I come from California where the Pacific Ocean is freezing. So for me, coming here, the sea it definitely warms up. I would say maybe more around June, July, August. But if you jump from a boat in the middle of the sea, yeah, it's cold.
I would say August, the water is warm because we were snorkeling in Crete in June. And we were the only ones not wearing wetsuits.
In the middle of the water.
No, off the coast.
Off the coast, okay.
We were the only ones not wearing wetsuits.
What?
Yes.
Shocking.
And my friend was like, I'm so cold.
Wow.
And I was like, suck it up. This is what it means to be in Greece. Suck it up. So I think, especially coming from the Gulf Coast, the water is always cold. One time it felt warm to me, low 70-degree water.
Like bath water.
Which I hate. So I'm happy with the water.
Yeah.
It's like a little rush of energy for the skin and the body when you jump in and it's freezing.
Yeah.
Coffee culture is really big in Greece.
Yeah.
And they do it
I
so
love it.
differently.
I'm here for it.
It's like takeaway coffee, they do. Totally understandable. But when you meet friends for coffee, you should expect it to take time. You should expect it to kind of allow you a breather in your day. I remember this took me a little bit of time to understand when I first moved here. Oh yeah, let's grab a coffee. And for me, I'd be grabbing coffee between meetings, between doing other things. That's okay. It's time for me to go. And they'd all be shocked. Wait, what do you mean you have to go? I just got here.
Oh, I had a different experience. I mean, because I'm so used to that. Again, going back to the Latin, I love that, taking my time. That's where I got to really get into coffee and like enjoy. Do you remember there was somebody we met in one of the expat groups, a guy from Spain, and he was so shocked about the takeaway coffees.
Oh, yeah.
He said, I don't even remember his name now. We met him many years ago, but he said, oh, it's like almost so American, all this takeaway coffee. And maybe it is, but I love it. I mean, there are a lot of places you could sit down and have a nice coffee in a mug and a nice little, cappuccino. But I just thought that was a really funny point out. I was like, wait, doesn't everybody do this?
I agree. Takeaway coffee is like life to me. Also, I have to say, Greeks invented this Okay, everyone knows frappe by now, but we've elevated and like modernized the frappe into a freddo espresso or a freddo cappuccino, iced espresso, iced cappuccino. It is the greatest thing in the world. I'm an iced coffee drinker year round.
It is what the country is fueled on, I would say, the energy.
Like, okay, we have democracy, philosophy, and freddo espresso. Those are like the things that Greece is known for.
I mean to stop, but there's a coffee shop, kind of Exarchia area called Coffee Philosophy. They've worked it into one word, so you could add that now.
These are the gifts we've given the world. What more do you want?
The coffee is pretty outstanding, especially coming from a coffee culture of San Francisco. I know it's not San Francisco, but like, next door, Oakland, Blue Bottle Coffee, and like there's a lot of other coffee roasters there as well. Were you shocked at all to notice that a lot of people weren't running around going, Oppa?
Yes, actually. That's one of the disappointments that I say Oppa a lot when I'm in the US. Anytime someone falls, I'm like, Oppa. Anyone drops something or like does something, Oppa. No one says it here, except, when you're about to make a big mistake. So that was really sad to me.
Oh, that's so funny. I was like, that's the movies. But yeah, you're right. That's what I thought was so funny is when I see people, giving directions for people to park a car, right? Opa, opa, opa. Like, I mean, stop, or ella, ella, come on. So it's just so funny. And that was one time somebody asked me, a Greek, and that's why I was like, oh, I'm a local, because I was like, and they're like, oh, I got what they meant. And so I got to use the ella, 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 opa, opa.
It's so funny how those experiences really sit in our mind.
They think I live here. Oh, I do live here, but I mean, they think I'm local. Yeah.
I love that. I love that feeling so much.
So silly. Oh my goodness. Where are you hoping to go to next?
I definitely want to go to Chios this year. I have family there I haven't seen in more than 20 years. Corfu, Lefkada, more of the Ionian Islands, because I've never been to that side of Greece.
Yeah.
And so I really want to make it a point to visit there. What about you guys?
Same. I've never been to the Ionian side. I hear kind of similar, we've talked about Skopelos, and it's very lush and green. It's a side of the country all the way west that kind of shares body of water with Italy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely excited for Lefkada. I've heard though you have to get there on the shoulder season sides, otherwise main season, July, August gets really crazy packed. The island of Syros, which you have raved about, is the capital of the Cycladic Islands. Which is Cycladic is kind of that group. There's a handful of islands, more than I can probably tell you, but like the Mykonos, Santorini, the whitewashed buildings, the blue domes is usually kind of
really dry, really arid.
Yeah, those islands. And what was it? You mentioned to me there's some things that are just quite architecturally different about Syros, right?
It's very Italian influenced.
Ah, okay.
And you see this. There's in the main city, in the capital city, there's a pretty large Catholic cathedral, and there's a very large Orthodox cathedral, and it kind of represents the two parts of the city, old and new.
Oh, wow.
They've got these big plateas, big squares. The streets are marble in some places. It's just, there's a different influence, especially in the Cyclades. It feels like it almost is like the outlier.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, you just got me so more excited to go.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's amazing. I mean, there's just so many Am I saying that?
Folegandros?
Yes. Oh my gosh, my Greek words. That's one. Another, again, a little less known, but there's just been a handful of people that have gone that have just planted seeds where I feel like I need to kind of check that out. And I would also say there's the ones that are over in the Dodecanese. You mentioned a handful, but like Rhodes, which I also understand has a lot of like medieval historical kind of way about it. So, I mean, my list can just keep going, but those are the ones that I think come to mind that hopefully this year I get to have time to go to and money.
Do you have a place that you get Greek travel inspiration from, or does it just come from conversation?
It usually comes from conversation, and then also just, some of the research that I just do online. There's just, Google things. I've gotten a lot from called the Greeka.com. I think that's a great site. And I have also gotten some inspiration lately from Siga Chels, is another great person to follow on Instagram. And how about you?
Steph_Greece. I've followed him for years, and now he's super popular. But even before anyone really knew about him, I was following him. And he's a photographer by trade, and his page is incredibly beautiful.
It is beautiful. Yeah.
And then just at Greece Instagram handle also shares really beautifully curated videos of different islands. So you can kind of get a sense of, oh, what's there? And then do a little bit of digging on your own. I also, before we wrap this up, I want to share like a list of some of my most favorite movies about Greece or shot in Greece to get you in the mood for when you do come to Greece. The movie Opa is just the most delightful romantic comedy. It's hard to find, so I can't tell you where to find it. It's about an archaeologist who comes to find like the cup of Saint John the Divine, and it happens to be under this woman's taverna, and they fall in love, and there's Greek dancing.
I
It's
haven't
just
seen it. I'll have to check it out.
So good. My Life in Ruins with Nia Vardalos, also very good.
Seen it. So good.
Boy on a Dolphin.
I've not seen it.
Oh, we went to Idra. There's a whole story there.
Yeah.
Mamma Mia, shot in Skopelos. Say what you will about ABBA. I love them. Still beautifully done.
What was really fun, we climbed to the church that they're using the outside of it, not the inside for the movie. What was hilarious is that they had different, I guess, I don't know if there were yachts or just catamarans or boats there, blasting Mamma Mia music. I mean, I'm sure they were giving somebody a whole like tour of a lifetime, but it just cracked me up. I was like, here we are.
It was perfect. It was perfectly timed. Shirley Valentine is one I have not watched yet, but I keep hearing people talk about it, and it's something that I've heard before. And then 3 TV shows. Maestro, which is on Netflix.
Yeah, so good.
Soseme, also on Netflix. These two are a little more drama than anything else. And then The Durrells of Corfu from Masterpiece on PBS. Just incredible.
We can go on for days, but hopefully that just gives you a little taste. I'm sure we'll probably revisit this topic. A big thank you to our team for the support on this podcast, including Alex with Distant Sport Audio for the audio and technical expertise. And also a shout out to you all who have chosen to listen to our podcast.
American novelist Henry Miller wrote, "It takes a lifetime to discover Greece, but it only takes an instant to fall in love with her." This week, we hope you fall in love with yourself, with life, with plans to visit Greece very soon. If you've got questions, don't hesitate to ask.
If you love what we're serving up, take a second to subscribe and rate the podcast on this platform. Be sure to follow us on Instagram. You can find us at Biscuits and Sunshine, all spelled out. And we'd be so honored if you share this podcast with a friend. This is Biscuits and Sunshine with Callie and Landra.